All right, here's a question. What would you do with an extra hour every day? It's not a trick question. That's what a bunch of physical therapists are saying after switching to Empower EMR by MW Therapy. It's built on automation and AI. So basically, it becomes your clinic's co-pilot. It keeps your schedule full, handles billing like a pro, and cuts way down on paperwork headaches. But here's the kicker. It's not some generic system. It's made for physical therapists by people who know what you deal with day in and day out. You want more patients? Done. Easier documentation? Done. Less stress? Yes, please. Empower lets you be the hero of your clinic with happier patients, less burnout, and better profits. Book your demo today at mwtherapy.com and see why switching just might be the easiest win of your year.
I think the number one thing for that is like, you got to lead with value first. Like the emails that I send out for Patch, like I send two out. The Tuesday ones are kind of just my thoughts of like, kind of like the Seth Godin one where, you know, I'm just kind of writing about what I'm thinking about. And then the Friday ones are all like the content that I consumed that I really liked that I think other clinic owners will also like as well. This blast that you're about to send is not going to work because you have no trust with your list. You've provided no value.
Today's guest didn't follow the typical path. In fact, he's not even a physical therapist, but that didn't stop him from founding one of the most successful cash-based clinics in Boston and scaling it to 2 locations, 7 providers, and a wait list filled by the power of smart digital marketing. Now, while most clinic owners were relying on physician referrals and word of mouth, he was running Google ads, dialing in SEO, and converting leads through email automation. Yeah, email, the thing everyone else thought was dead. And when he realized the systems he built were scalable, he sold the clinic and co-founded a company to teach other practice owners how to do it too. From LMT to CEO, clinic to tech startup, and growth to exit, this is the story of how to build enterprise value in your practice without burning out or selling out. Grab a drink and meet the man behind the marketing engine, Jeremy DuPont, here on PT Pintcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
I should just hit record before I start everything.
It should just be, yeah, it just should be always recording at all times. That's how you get the good stuff.
And for clarity, just for you, I've already recorded your intro, but I did it at the end of the episode. Like that's where people are like, wait a minute, how do you know what you're about to talk about? I'm like, because I'll record it at the end of the episode. When do you write your note as a PT? At the end of the, like, that's genius. I'm like, you'd never do that before. Jeremy, welcome to the show. I feel like I know you because I listen to you talk a lot and write. And so I read, I have your voice in my head. How do you explain to people, because we'll get to what you used to do. Yeah. How do you explain to people what you get to do now?
Yeah. So what I do now is I run a digital marketing company. It's called Patch. We help primarily cash-based physical therapy clinics just do marketing better for the most part. So it's really anything on like the digital landscape side of things. So everything from Google Ads to SEO to setting up backend systems through a CRM, email marketing, really anything that doesn't involve like the local marketing side of things, we help them do those things. Yeah, it's kind of what I do now.
I love when I talk to the people that you probably like to serve and they're like, but I could do everything Jeremy just listed. And Jeremy's probably like, great, go do, number one, why haven't you done that already? And number two, like, how hard could it be? It's not rocket science, but the question is, and I think someone reframed it really well, anybody can, just will they, right?
Right.
Like anybody can, like when potential patients look at PTs, they're like, I can just Google this. It's like, great, why haven't you? Because you're looking for guidance or to someone to plan it out. Like when I did my last longer distance triathlon, I wanted to have a good experience on race day. And I know enough about triathlon that I could plan a training plan. And I hired someone because I was like, I want someone who's better than me to do it. And they did, and I loved it. And I was happy to hand money over. That's like the one thing I want to talk about people too, is like, as PTs, we're such bleeding hearts. We have this Peace Corps gene that we're like, if it's not covered, how can I figure out a way to deliver it without getting paid? And I'm like, I'm not saying like hose people, but I'm saying if you're delivering value, did you ask your patient if they don't want to pay? So we'll get to that. But first thing I want to talk about, let's go backwards now. That's what you get to do now. And I think you're in a perfect position to do that now because you were your customer, right? Like you built
Totally.
Ripple. We could talk about Ripple, which is a ridiculous name for a clinic, but like maybe that's why you picked it because it's like doesn't make any sense. Why isn't it something physical therapy? It's like I don't know, maybe because he wanted to say it was different. You built Ripple
Right.
from the ground up. What was it? And then you scaled it, automated it, and then you sold it. Like this is like I want to know, was that part of the plan or was that part of the journey? Like walk us through what growth looked like for Ripple.
Yeah, so I started it in 2021. I guess like even a little bit of
Wow.
backstory about me. Yeah, so it was during COVID. I'm a massage therapist, strength and conditioning coach as well. So I'm not a physical therapist. I get long story short, I moved to Boston because for PT school, realized that PT wasn't for me because I worked as like a PT aide job, and it was at the hospital and inpatient physical therapy. And I was like, this is not what I thought I was signing up for. Basically, I thought I was going to be with athletes and doing a little bit more on like the AT side of things. So I didn't end up going to DPT school, and just kind of turned myself into this like hybrid provider, I guess, for lack of a better word, where I got my massage therapy license, took all the PRI, FRC, all of those certifications, and just did this like, kind of like strength training slash manual therapy, personal training service in downtown Boston. So I was working at a clinic. It was going great. It was awesome. I had a full caseload. It was, I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. COVID hit. The clinic
Mm,
I was working at shut down. And so from that point, I went self-employed, worked like that COVID summer, treating people outside in their homes, wherever I could, just to see the people I was seeing beforehand. And things actually got busier for me during COVID because I was providing that like one-on-one service and almost like this concierge type service. So, I was like, I think I have something here. Obviously, this is a weird time in the world, but I'm going to kind of go all in and open up this standalone space in downtown Boston. So that's where Ripple was born. So we started that in 2021. It was just myself to begin with. Long story short with that is, yeah, 3 years kind of went by and was able to grow it to, we had 7 PTs. So we're fully
wow.
cash based. We didn't take any insurance or anything like that. We ended up, we had 2 locations and I sold it in November of last year. So a few months ago. And yeah, I think like you said, I was in a situation where like I hired a marketing company to do those things that, I thought like, I don't really know how to do this stuff. And like, I need to like grow this clinic and be a manager and pay the bills. So I hired a Boston based marketing company to do SEO and run Google ads and all that stuff. And kind of got burned by them, to be honest with you.
Sure.
So $10,000 later. And I was like, well, I got to figure this stuff out on my own, I suppose, if I want this to work. Ended up falling in love with it. And that's really like where our clinic was able to grow and kind of led me to Patch, really.
That's awesome. I think one thing that jumped out at me is that time frame that you're talking about. A lot of people shrunk. A lot of people got real small. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of people were like, I'm just going to be safe. And you did
Yeah.
quite literally the opposite. Like you built something in the middle when everybody else was shrinking. Did that feel, I mean, how was that like?
It was just such a weird time, right? Because it was, 1 week mask mandates were lifted, we are all good to go, we are in the clear, and then the next week everything was like rolled back, and we could only have one person in the clinic at the time, and it was just such a bizarre like time of year. But again, I think like super lucky, like timing wise, where because we were doing the one-on-one care and the 60-minute care, and all of the like the PTs were seeing one patient in a private room, people gravitated to us more versus like the insurance clinic that needed to have like 5 or 6 people in there at a time.
Right, right, right.
And that's where like people started seeking us out because they felt more comfortable coming to see us versus the traditional PT route.
Yeah. I want to talk about a phrase that I'm not sure I understand, and I didn't look it up on purpose because I figured, hey, I'm going to talk to Jeremy. He's going to know what it means. He can just teach it to me better. The phrase is enterprise value. Like, what is it? And then what? I mean, obviously, I don't know what it is, or I haven't used that phrase before. Like, what is it? What should I and the audience, like clinic owners, know about it?
Yeah. So enterprise value, if you would ask me a year ago, even like I would have no idea what you're talking about either. This is all stuff that I learned during like the sale of my business. And really what enterprise value is doing something to set your business up to have bigger, like long-term scale to it. So if you do go and sell that clinic, adding more enterprise value means that your clinic is worth more money if you do go and sell that business. So for me, like again, like I kind of got to the point where my clinic was automated. I had somebody approach me to sell the business. I had kind of thought that, I knew I wanted to go all in with Patch and, eventually either want to step away or, find somebody to buy this thing or take it over. So when I got approached for the sale of the business, I was kind of forced to start learning all of these things of like,
Right.
what is enterprise value? What can I do to set myself up? It's adding key employees, it's having backend systems, all these different things. So it's really anything you can do to increase the value of what your clinic is worth.
That probably requires people stopping, pausing, and being able to take stock of something now and look down the future. I feel like not all, but a lot of people are like, they're so underwater or they're so up to their eyeballs in the now that that's something I'm never going to do. And we know, like with retirement accounts, a little bit now helps a lot later. And there
Right.
is a point when you can't catch up. So what advice would you give to someone who's like in it now and is like, hey, I'm not planning on selling, but like maybe, what advice would you give to them? Like, hey, like I want you to scare them a little. Like, you need to pay attention to this, or else there will be a point in the sand where you've gone too far and now it ain't possible.
Totally. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, right? And this is what I talk with a lot of clinic owners inside of Patch about is you need to start like figuring this stuff out now because eventually you're just gonna like you're not gonna want to run the clinic anymore. You're not gonna want to
Yeah.
be a therapist or like you're gonna want to try to do something else. And if you don't start slowly chipping away at building systems, having a key employee in place so that you can take a vacation if you want to and things don't totally crumble. Then not only you're going to work 10, 15 years on building this business and you're going to have nothing to show for it at the end of the day. That sucks, obviously, right? And I always tell people too of like it doesn't matter if you're trying to sell the business or automate the business so you have like time in location and freedom. You're doing the same exact thing. The process of both of those things are exactly the same. It doesn't mean you have to sell the business, but I think the end goal should be, again, like if you want to take a couple week vacation and the clinic still makes money and it runs and you don't need to step in and hop in Slack or answer emails, that's really the goal at the end of the day. So, regardless of what your end goal is, that's what you should be shooting for.
Yeah. You said part of Ripple's success was built on digital marketing. You said you got burned, then you figured out sort of how to do it yourself. Hey, how hard could this be? The difference between you and someone else saying, well, how hard could it be, is you went and did it. Like, you researched it, which again is not for everybody, right? If somebody
Yeah.
asked me to do something outside of my domain, I would just never do it because I don't want to. Like, that's the thing. I don't want to learn about plumbing. I want to hire someone to put in a bathroom for me, but I'll learn about how to mow my lawn. I'll do that, right? So like figuring out what you're good at and what you like to do. You said it was really built digital marketing with that email, that SEO. Why do you think so many clinics ignore this? Like, even if we're like, this is important and they agree, why do they ignore this? And then also, what's working now? Like, what's the next thing from email and SEO that someone should at least be paying attention to?
Yeah, totally. So I think the reason it worked for me is because, clearly, like I said at the beginning, I'm not like your standard clinician where I think a lot of PTs that I talk with, like they're clinicians at heart. They're not really like business owners. Maybe they just like kind of stumbled into this because they wanted to give a little bit better care, especially on our end with the cash-based PTs. So like for them going and like removing time away from like the actual like treating side of things and giving that care to sit in front of a computer and learn SEO or the inner workings of Google Ads, like that is not appealing to most PTs that I speak with. For me, like I loved diving into that stuff because my heart wasn't like totally in the clinician side of things. I was more than happy to pass off all of my patient care to my staff PT, and I can go and figure out this marketing side of things. So I think most PTs don't end up doing this because they just don't really like doing it. And that's totally okay. As a business owner, you have so many other things to
So
worry
many
about.
things.
You've got to fulfill, you've got to be a good leader, you got to do all the local marketing. And I think that's what an actual PT actually loves doing. So I think that's why that's where like kind of Patch comes in. And I think we fit very nicely in a lot of businesses because we kind of handle all the stuff that needs an industry expert to do. And it's always the stuff that people like clinic owners just don't want to do. So that's, kind of my thought process on, why I think most PTs don't do this stuff. In terms of what I'm seeing moving forward, You
Yeah.
know, I think AI is obviously the
Wow.
big buzzword with all of this stuff coming through. It's been really interesting. I think it's still too early to tell in terms of like the AI and how it's going to affect Google Ads or SEO. You know, obviously when you Google something right now, Google will spit you out like the almost like an AI like script of like some of like the key points that it's then like crawled on the
Yeah.
internet. For local services, it seems like it's still like everything's about the map still in your SEO ranking. So I don't see that being disrupted just yet. But you know, I think at the end of the day, it's all about content and putting really good content out there on all of the platforms because that's what OpenAI is going to do. It's going to pull from your Instagram account, your Facebook, all the blogs that you write, your website quality, and then that's what's going to be like your traditional SEO in 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah. The basics still kind of are going to apply.
Exactly.
Bring
Exactly.
value and value follows. I was in radio for 15 years, decade and a half. One of the worst questions you can ask a band is where'd you get the band name? But as I'm sitting here, you were talking about like gaps. Like, was patch like a way to like patch a hole or patch a gap, or was it something different? You know that end of day feeling when your brain's toast and you still have a mountain of notes to finish? Yeah, not anymore. Athelis AI Scribe is the ultimate clinic weapon. It listens in your real time during patient visits and automatically writes your notes. That means less time at the computer and way more time for your actual life, whether that's seeing more patients, grabbing lunch on time, or just getting home before dark. No typing and no more late night charting. It's a dream. Seriously, this is the scribe you've been waiting for. Go check out a live demo at athelis.com and see how much time you can get back. That's ATHELAS.com.
Yeah, there you go. You
Okay.
you nailed it right there. Yeah. That's like we have like you know, if anybody books a demo call with us, we send them over like a document of like here's what patch does basically. And like the image on the front of it is like a bucket with all these holes that
Yeah.
are like indicative of like if you're not running ads or sending a newsletter and like patch comes in and literally patches those holes for you. So that's exactly it.
I was trying not to ask the band where they got their name, but I had to ask because I was like, this one looks obvious. Maybe I should have asked Nickelback because I still don't know where the hell that came from. But
Yeah,
um,
that's a good one.
now that you launch patch, like what are some of after you book one of those calls? What are a few of the mistakes we talked about? Not paying attention to or not doing SEO or email marketing. What are some of the other mistakes that you see? And this is where you get to look like you're a genius, right? Because you come in and typically it's like, hey, let me take a wild guess. You have this problem and this problem. What are the typical ones that other people out there are maybe listening while they're driving in their car and they're going, ooh, that's me. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. What's the low hanging fruit?
Yeah, I always start of like, you know, I still think, you know, I'm obviously a big believer in email marketing still to this day because it's something that like you own that list. You know, you're not at risk of like TikTok being shut down and totally losing all of your distribution. And I think, you know, most of the clinic owners I talk to, they're not doing something as simple as sending out like weekly, bi-weekly, monthly newsletter, just like with clinic updates to stay top of mind
Yeah.
with their list. And every like all clinic owners, they're doing all these workshops. They're doing a really good job of generating leads, but then they don't do anything with those leads afterwards. So a very simple newsletter and then, you know, quarterly every 6 months, just like reactivation campaign to try to get those people back in the door. That's a really easy way to generate tens of thousands of dollars for your business. And, you know, most, again, clinics aren't doing something like that. A lot of what we do obviously is like the back end system side of things too. So, you know, we build everything out. We build out like custom CRMs for all the businesses that we work with. Same sort of issue, right? Of you're doing these workshops or gathering these leads from these events or whatever you may be doing. And then they're kind of going into nowhere basically of like, what some people are on this piece of paper, other people are in this Google Doc, some people are in Squarespace. So we just try to centralize all of that by building out a CRM, and then you can follow up with people and make it really easy.
I'll give people the example. Like, I think before this is why we should hit record immediately. It's like, because some of that good stuff just gets lost. And talk about, I put things in funny stories, right? Because stories resonate with people. Is your goal to just run around and get a bunch of girls' phone numbers, or is it to do something with them? So, like, congratulations, you walked out of the bar tonight with 15 phone numbers. Okay, but now what? Like, do you want to go on 15 dates? So, do you think you need to do something with that? Like, maybe you need to send a text. Maybe you need to send a follow up. How can you be different? And a lot of times it's like, don't get stuck on that one KPI. It was like, we got 1,200 email addresses. Awesome. What do we get? Think like a PT. What are we going to do with it? Oh, we're going to send them a
So
newsletter. And I get nervous when someone says, I hate the word blast. Can we blast this out? And I'm like, can we not? Like, because that just sends fling. Like, to me, that's like fling. That's like ready, fire, aim. I'm like, okay. Like, I read your emails and I get lots of emails. And there's something to be said for like, just show up in their inbox and just make, even if they never open it, your name and a subject line, you showed up, and that's a ping. That's one little touch. But if you earn my trust, and actually it's a unique time that we're talking, and I believe it's 10 years. Seth Godin has written a blog post every day for 10 years. He's written a sentence. He's written 27 pages. He's done it every day for 10 years. When I see Seth Godin pop up in my email box, more often than not, I open it. Not every day. I can't. Seth, 10 years? Come on, bro. And he knows it, but he's like, I'm here. And so when Seth Godin has never blasted everything. He's never flung something out. He's never just had to do it. He decided, this is my medium and I'm going to show up, but he leads with value first. So I agree with you, but I would, and I'm sure you would, I want to know your thoughts on this. It doesn't need to be, I worked with a client once who was like, it needs to be an update of everything we're doing. And I was like, that feels too wide. That's the newspaper. Can you teach me something, make me laugh, make me raise my eyebrows? I always call it the eyebrow test. Like, didn't know that. That's cool. Yep. So when I hear someone say just blast it, like, it is cringe mode to me. And I'm sure you come with that. So you must know that, because I open your emails more often than not. So how do you approach, like, what am I going to do when I actually do hit send? How do you, what is your process for yourself and for what you teach other people?
Yeah, I think it's a great point, and something I'm always thinking about as well, because people's inboxes are so valuable too. And like,
So
how do you
valuable.
get to that point where you are that person where I am going to open this more often than not? Again, not every time, but I think the number one thing for that is like, you've got to lead with value first, right? Like the emails that I send out for Patch, like I send two out. The Tuesday ones are kind of just my thoughts of like, kind of like the Seth Godin one, where, you know, I'm just kind of writing about what I'm thinking about. And then the Friday ones are all of like the content that I consumed that I really liked, that I think other clinic owners will also like as well. So I'm just like,
Great.
I'm just building some like reciprocity with people.
Red.
And, you know, I'm not like saying like, hey, you know, Patch is running this huge deal today, or like, you know, you got to like move forward today or anything like that. Like those type of blasts, like I'm like very picky about when I'm doing that. And we look at like clinics the same way too. And that's a lot of people that come to Patch where they sign up with us and they're like, I want to run this deal. I want to run this deal. Like, well, you've never sent an email to your list before. This blast that you're about to send is not going to work because you have no trust with your list. You've provided no value. And maybe they met you at a workshop 6 months ago, but they have no idea who you are. And if you say, hey, buy my thing, that's the first touch point you've had with them in 6 months.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
It's cringy. Like, it's, you know, not Seth Godin, which is the opposite. Gary Vee is probably the opposite of Seth Godin. If there's two people who are probably more different, but they probably say the same stuff if you boil it down, just different. How they say it is differently. Gary's famous book is Jab, 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 Right Hook. The idea is jabs are like gibs. Like, here's a thing that I thought you might like. Here's a thing. Here's a thing. Here's a thing. Here's a thing. By the time Gary says, I have a book for sale, you're like, I feel like I owe him to buy it, even if I'm not going to read it. Like, I owe this guy.
Exactly.
Like, that is building cred with someone. I have a shelf full of Gary. I've read half of them, but I'm going to. But at that point, I've just given me so much. I feel like I owe it to him. So if Gary came in hot, even if he had the greatest book in the world and just said, buy my book, I don't even know who you are, dude. Like, we met once, right? Let's get married to a girl that you got her phone number 6 months ago and then just texted in hot. Let's go on a vacation together. What are you? You skipped some steps, man, which is super obvious in the relationship example. But I hold people's feet to the fire. It's the same thing if you do it in your business. Super weird, super cringy. And then you're like, email marketing doesn't work. No, dating doesn't work. No, dude, you did it wrong. Like, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And you did it one of the wrong ways.
Totally. And that's, I think the dating analogy is perfect. It's like, all right, you got all these phone numbers, you got all these leads. And then, like if you're not putting them into a CRM and then sending them some sort of like nurture email sequence to talk about, especially again, like in the cash based world for us, we have a lot of education to do. So if we're not telling them about like, hey, here's the difference between like in and out of network, and here's why our service is a little bit more expensive, but this is what you get with it. So if you're not like educating your patient base on those things, and then you say, hey, book this evaluation or come get married to us and spend $2,000+ on this package, it's not going to
Whoop,
happen,
whoop.
right? And that's where there's just steps to all that. And I think a lot of clinics, it's very low hanging fruit, but it's just something that gets missed.
Now, the other side of that spectrum is if you mentioned a reactivation campaign, and I hope this is listened to by people who know what we're talking about and don't. I want you to be like, these guys are just talking gibberish. A reactivation campaign is reaching out to someone you went to high school with and being like, hey, man, I saw that post about your kids. I haven't talked in 10 years, but we had this connection before. Remember, I used to sit next to you in social studies, and I just wanted to say, I'm glad you're doing well. And then shut up.
Right.
Or in business, it might say, like, just checking in on how you're doing. Are you still running marathons? Because I remember that about you. Is there anything I can help with? Then shut up, right? But that's different because you already have that. It's the reactivation campaign. You've
Right.
hopefully earned it to do that. You must see people find so much money under their couch cushions in reactivation campaigns. It's sitting there.
100%, to like tens of thousands of dollars
Woo.
every quarter or so, when you do these. And that's where like you need to do them like tactfully though. You can't just say like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to run this reactivation campaign. It's what's going on, like, like right now in Boston, right? Like it's finally nice out. The Boston Marathon's going on. So it's like, let's lean into like running a little bit and let's find all the runners that are on our list because we have all that organized. And
Smart.
here's everybody that we have, we met at a running event or they came in, whatever it might be. And let's do our reactivation campaign around our runners because it's very timely right now. Everybody's trying to get outdoors. It's spring. Boston Marathon's going on. Let's reach out to them about running related injuries. Let's talk about that in our newsletter, educate people. Our content, our Instagram posting should be about that. And you're not just like throwing stuff out there willy-nilly and hoping that people take you up on it. There's got to be a little bit of strategy to it.
You're saying hope with the people it will resonate with, and it will not resonate with everybody. Like go into it. There's no it will resonate with everybody for anything. If you're saying the thing that they're thinking or feeling, because they're watching the new Nike commercial around Boston or the billboards that I'm sure are going up around the marathon, and they're thinking like, man, I wish I was running again this year. And could you do a campaign that go, if you're not running this year, you got 364 days. Like sending a message out the day after the marathon to steal all the hype of the race and be like 364 days until we run again. Are you going to be on the starting line or not? Like, then shut up.
Brilliant.
Then shut up.
Yeah.
And it will not resonate with everybody. You might send 1,000 emails and you might get 3, but that's 3 more than you had yesterday. And it costs you nothing. And for the people that don't respond, they're like, that I get it. That's just not me. And that's cool. That's not me, but that's cool. That did not bother me.
Right.
I wish more owners would understand that value that you earn it's quantifiable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is, we don't like, you shouldn't be worried about like, oh, I'm bothering this person. I'm bothering this person. It's like,
we're bleeding hearts
like,
though, dude.
yeah, I know. It's but
you.
it's we provide so much value though of like, yeah, like I remember like I reached out to one guy, when I was running Ripple, it was like 6 or 8 months. I was just following up, hey, what's going on? How's the shoulder? Need anything? Nothing. And then finally he responded back. It's like, hey, sorry, I've been traveling, whatever it might be. And then like he came in and 6 months later, he's, like he like pulled me aside. He's like, thanks for staying on top of me. Like, I appreciate you continuing to reach out because what we do is life-changing for a lot of people. And I think we forget that. And that should be like, you should talk about that in your messaging when you're marketing as well.
Jeremy, we're going to play a game. Are you ready for game time?
Let's do it.
All right, game time. We're going to play Marketing Mythbusters, Physical Therapy, Healthcare Edition. I'm going to throw out some advice. You're going to let me know if it's a myth or a must, and then you can give a quick explanation. I'm going to say, here's a bold statement, Jeremy. Email marketing is dead. Is that a myth or is it true?
Total myth. I think everything we just talked about just dispelled that as well. I think it's one of the only platforms where you still own all that information. It's easy to reach out to people, and people value their inbox, so you need to be inside of it.
They do. I need to be inside of you. That's what a marketer says to someone that's inside.
Yeah, that's how you sell something right there.
Jeremy, you need to post on social every single day. Is that myth or is that must?
I think myth. I think especially right now, I think it's quality over quantity right now. But I think the days of not being on social media, is non-negotiable now. So you don't need to be posting every day, but you need to have quality content up there that people resonate with.
You don't need marketing if you're referral based.
I think like to a point, sure. Like it depends on how big you want to get.
Yeah.
I think that's how you need to like build your company off of your word of mouth and referrals and get your brand out there. But if you want to grow, eventually you have to lay into the paid advertising side of things.
Referrals are marketing. It's just a different way, though. That's the thing. I want people I don't do marketing. I just do referrals. And I'm like, I got news for you, my man. That is a different way to do it. But okay.
100%.
Last myth. You should hire an agency as soon as you open your clinic.
Again, I think it always boils down to what your goals are. But again, like somebody brand new, they are just starting. You need to nail down your local network first. Yeah. We could do all the marketing in the world, but if you don't have any trust in the community or the neighborhood, it's going to be really hard to grow that. You have bigger fish to fry. Spend your time, money, and effort into building your local network first, and then start running ads afterwards.
All right, Jeremy, you're off the hot seat for myth or must. Last thing we do though on the show is called the parting shot. It's your chance to be prolific. You could bring up a mic drop moment, a quote, whatever. What do you want to burn into people's brain as we wrap up?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think clinic owners, especially, so I'm talking specifically to clinic owners here or future clinic owners. I think, there's a really big opportunity in the next handful of years to grow something that has enterprise value, that it can be something that you can automate, you can, make a good amount of money doing. And, I think the shift in the healthcare world is really moving in putting physical therapists in a really good spot. So if you are a clinic owner leaning into building your clinic to a handful of clinicians, something that, doesn't rely on you treating every single day to pay the bills and leveraging digital marketing to do all of those things, it's a very viable option. I think anybody can do that right now. And, it's not as scary. It's a risk for sure. But it's a fun risk at the end of the day.
If someone's nodding along and they're still listening and they're like, all right, fine, Jeremy, you got me. Call me. How does someone reach you?
Yeah, patchsystem.com is our agency's website. You can follow me on Instagram as well, _Jeremy DuPont. I've got a podcast, Jeremy on Marketing Podcast. So that's where you can find me.
Jeremy, appreciate it. We'll have you back soon. I feel like we could just touch on all these different things. And here's the job security for people like you and me. The world keeps changing, and we change how we communicate with people. It's like, that sucks, but it's pretty good for us. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. 3 months from now, we're having a totally different conversation, probably.
Yeah, wild. It's wild. Jeremy from Patch, appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, man.
You ever wonder how those rock star clinicians seem to just know what to do? Like they've got a sixth sense in clinic. Well, here's the secret. Brooks IHL. Their residency and fellowship programs for PTs, OTs, and SLPs are where clinical skills meet elite mentorship. We're talking 150 hours of one-on-one mentoring, lab training that's immersive, and real-world experience inside Brooks Rehabilitation's top-tier system of care. And unlike some programs where you have to put your career on pause, Brooks IHL pays you a full salary while you level up. Their grads consistently outperform national board pass rates, and most of their mentors, they've been through the program themselves. If you're serious about being a clinical expert, this is the move. Go to brooksihl.org and check out all 10 program tracks. The next level of your career is waiting at Brooks.